Hey, I'm Birdman.
I'm Bruce.
Time to get on target at
The Hub.
So we're not going to go shooting today.
No, we're not. I figured we need to take a day off. You figured you need a day off too.
We're going to take a few days off shooting, but we're going to talk about a topic that we sort of mention.
We mentioned a lot, and it's becoming more and more important, I think.
Yeah, and because of not because of one side or the other, because of both sides of the topic, nobody calms down and just talks about it. And we're going to talk about how gun ownership, how to be a good steward of guns, and how to not jeopardize our rights.
Yes.
I think that's a good way to say it. A lot of people think you can't jeopardize your rights because they're your rights. Well, you can always jeopardize your rights. You can define to government, which is what we've done in a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, what they can and can't do. But more than likely, that's because they're going to overstep that. And we know they have. We get that. But we have to own part of the process, and we have to behave a certain way. And we can't do things that exacerbate a situation and make it worse.
Yeah, I think we all can find something to help the cause. Let's just say that we're all firm believers in our right to bear arms and our Second Amendment rights. Big believers in that. But I think there's ways to go about that and make it calmer.
Okay.
I think that's what you wanted to talk about today, and I
Yeah,
want to talk about that.
That's why we wanted to be calm and
So
not
we're going to
excited.
make what? You can make 3 sections out of this.
We're going to do 3 segments. We're going to talk how you talk about guns is the first one. How you represent yourself as a gun owner is the second one. And then how do you discuss gun ownership? Today,
We're going to discuss
how we talk about guns.
And I thought of something when I was driving in today. 'Cause it's such a long drive here. It takes me about 5 minutes. I had a lot of traffic.
I know. You got a whole 5 minutes. I got about 15 for me.
Yeah, a lot of traffic today. We have a whole lot of traffic. We do in the summertime, but not right now.
Yeah.
I was thinking on the way, and I was remembering about. I remember when I traveled a little bit not much, but very little bit. And what you want to do is you don't want to be, at least a term, an ugly American.
Right.
Remember that term?
Yeah.
And so you didn't want to go over someplace and put a bad name in on the United States, like be whatever you wanted to be, but that wasn't a good person.
Right.
Put it that way. And you wanted to represent your country when you're over there. Because all these guys from America, they come over here, they're really great. They do a lot of drinking, maybe they like to party, but they're respectful. They tip well, and all the little things like that. And then there's the opposite end we won't get into. I think I may have told you that story. And then sometimes you're blamed because of the people that were there before you.
Yeah,
We've all had that.
right. Yeah.
So that's kind of like I wanted to talk about that today, and you and I discussed something the other day about how we talk about guns. Do we talk calmly, and do we talk about our belief in what guns do for us?
So recently, you watch television, you see like that, and they have the shows that they're not news shows. Let's get past the pretense that they're news. They're opinion shows that they're on the news channels, and they do this back and forth panel discussions. And I saw one guy literally come completely unhinged about firearms, and then went out and started misquoting what it says on the Statue of Liberty and things like that. And it's like. And it wasn't calm at all. And the people that were trying to discuss with him weren't really calm either. They did calm down. They certainly didn't jump to his level, because he went straight up into the whole tearing the things off and walked off the set and got drama and they said
I think it's
and now the
calm
best
way.
award. But
we hope we work on that, because if you think about the actual physical. The specifications on shootings and stabbings and all that. And I heard something the other day that made a lot of sense, but we don't rationally talk about this. But for every one person that has been killed by a quote, we'll call it a black rifle, but they'll call it an assault rifle because we know it doesn't go full auto.
Right.
Or because you have to have a license for that.
Assault is it's not really. There's nothing. No rifle's assault in the first place.
But for every one that's killed with one of those black rifles. 12 people are killed by handguns.
Right.
Now they're including suicides, police shootings, and everything. But 12 people for every one with a black rifle. And then for every one with a handgun, 4 people are killed by knives. So then I think if you go down from that with bludgeoning, blunt instruments, it's probably still going to be more than handguns.
And then there's cigarettes, and then there's disease, and then there's alcohol.
So if you think about that, you wonder, well, then if that's the case, why is everybody so excited about the black rifle debate? And then we have to start thinking about politics. We have to start thinking about, is there any motives and stuff like that? But if we start getting into all the conspiracy things, I think we have to ourselves, I know how you handle people like
Right,
that. I
right.
just saw you handling somebody the other day like that. And I know how I do silently, like the silent majority, how I'm teaching new people that never shot before, getting more and more to carry a gun, more and more to do concealed carry. Because I think we talk about this other percentage, it's kind of interesting. I don't think they understand that over 60%, considerably over 60% of the population does not own a firearm. So when we try to test things like you're going to talk about probably what happened at Wally World.
We'll talk about that probably the next.
That may be derogatory. We won't talk about that.
We'll talk, and it's happened at other stores
Yeah.
and other retail locations.
So we're going to talk about basically how we talk about
yeah.
them. So if we talk calmer about them, and is it from a business standpoint, and maybe we look at it how a business should talk about it, places that actually have decided maybe they're not to carry firearms or something, they talk about it differently.
Right.
You know, but they try to, they're doing that for a business standpoint because the majority of the people that come in there don't own firearms.
Now it's really hard to ask somebody who's not. It's not their job. It's not their. It's not something that they're held accountable for. To ask them to think about what they say before they say it. It's a real hard thing for me as a person. I mean, I do it because I'm in the media that's aligned with it. I work with a gun shop that does it. So I have a certain onus because of what I do with them to do that. But if you're just a private citizen sitting there, to sit there and say to you, hey, you got to think before you speak, seems like I'm saying something that shouldn't be done. But that's the cost of freedom, okay? It really honestly is that if you think about it. So the Second Amendment was put in place, and it has nothing to do with hunting, okay? It has to do with protection, and it mostly has to do with keeping a government from growing so big that it can be tyrannical and take over and not be able to be stood up to by its people. So that is something that you know we can't back down from, but we don't need to scream it from the top of our lungs, okay?
We need to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of rights that you don't need to scream about and go put in people's faces. But I'm not asking you at all to back down and say, no, I'm just going to acquiesce to what I'm being asked to do. Big thing about talking about gun is it comes down to the shall not be infringed phrase. Okay,
Yes.
we ran into this the other day. Shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. The right to keep and bear arms. Okay,
Yep.
Shall not be infringed. Now you'll see the TMZ guys say, well, no, there's another thing that says there's no law shall be made in the First Amendment. Well, the First Amendment only applies to redressing your government. It does not. The First Amendment does not allow you to go out on the street and just yell randomly whatever the heck you want. That's not protected speech under the First Amendment. If you're not talking about the government and what it's doing and redressing that and in doing it that way, and it also doesn't protect you from going out in the middle of a street where there's traffic and stopping it. Okay, that's not free speech. You're disabling people to do things. Okay, so Second Amendment, very clear. Shall not be infringed. Keep and bear. They get into the whole background check, like, well, the background check is an infringement. The background check only applies, only if they start to try to apply it to everything will it become an infringement. Because currently, a background check is only applied to retailers.
Yes.
Okay.
But people that have FFLs.
So they make a retailer get an FFL to be able to sell a license. Now, this can become some argument whether or not, so they're saying people can be able to create their own firearms, sell their own firearms, and do that. And there's a problem with some of it. There is an infringement if I create a firearm and I create it, okay, from an 80% lower, and then I go to sell it. Supposedly that's illegal.
You have to keep that, I guess, if you create it yourself.
Yeah, but technically that's infringement because I'm a private individual. So there's no infringement. It's commerce which is being addressed because you got to look at who's going to be arrested. Is the person, if I buy a firearm from a retailer and they don't make me fill out a form, okay, and I have that gun and then you come and find me and say, or police come and find me and say, okay, well, you've got this gun. They don't arrest me. They may confiscate the gun. And then there's an issue there with infringement. But the fine and everything is levied against the business.
Yeah, and I think the thing about the infringement thing could be business related because if you start building something without a license, you're a manufacturer, they're allowing you to manufacture one because of your rights, supposedly. Right. But then once you get into the commerce end of it and try to sell it, that's what happens with this. Now they say this gun show loophole, that's another term.
Right.
But and if you think about it, There's not a gun show loophole for a dealer. They go to a gun show. They got to fill out the paperwork. When we go to those banquets for the NRA and other
Right.
Elk,
Gotta fill 'em out.
Elk Society,
It doesn't matter. Elks
and
Club.
we
there's
sit there at a
tons.
table, and
Yep.
we happen to be the person on record, and they bring the gun to us, and the people fill out the form because they have to.
Right.
But I think what happens with this what they're talking about is private people can sell their firearm. And now they shouldn't sell it to somebody that legally can't have it, but they cannot run a background check. They can check to make sure the age is right. They can check to make, if they want to, and look at a driver's license and things like that, just because morally it's the correct way to do it.
Right.
But where they start to skirt this law is they start to buy guns just to resell. Yet they don't have a resale license, and they say they're selling their collection. So it's a gray area.
Well, here's the issue, though.
Yeah.
With that's never brought up when somebody brings up a gun show
Yeah.
loophole. Please show me statistically, or with even anecdotally, what mass shootings occurred with a gun purchased at a gun show.
Well, that's because the mass shootings are such a small percentage.
But you can't show me one.
Well,
Or show me stats of guns that are purchased at privately and then used for shootings.
I think this last one had to do with that somebody built this gun for somebody. I think it was in 80%. And
Right.
I'm not sure which one that was and how soon it was stopped. But so it's a funny, how do they protect our, as individuals, to be able to buy and sell things for ourselves? You know, if we buy from a dealer, we go through the paperwork. If I buy from you, I buy from you.
But people-
if they don't allow me to sell it. Now, California's done that.
Right.
You cannot, but guns are registered in California. So some states are actually registering the guns. I think we have to calmly look at all these laws and try to make it better without getting excited and trying to test things. So how we talk about it, and that's what we wanted to talk about today, is do we talk about it understanding that 60% of the people aren't gun owners?
Right.
Now, if it was 90% gun owners
It'd be
and
an easy-
10% not,
yeah, it'd be an
you
easier
wouldn't
conversation.
have to. Well, you still should be civil.
Right.
You could probably get away with a little bit more aggression on your discussion if it's 10-1. But if it's over 60%, it's like 65%.
Right.
Do not have firearms, even though there's 400 million firearms. I think we have to sit back and look at that and know that there are ways in the Constitution to change things. They can, it's never been done as far as putting together enough states that want
Right.
to get involved in it,
Right.
but it was not saying it couldn't happen in the future. So I think we just have to keep a calm head, protect, do what we can, learn about our guns and talk about them as they're part of our, and I don't even talk about the fact of the guns that I have. I mean, I have a
Right.
couple guns.
Yep.
And we've done some videos on some of the guns we both have.
Same here.
But I don't go out of my way when I go to a party. People don't know I have a gun. Number one, I usually don't take a gun to a party. Very seldom. I probably wouldn't. Unless it's a party about gun owners and but even then I wouldn't, because you're going to probably have something to drink, and you don't want to have guns with alcohol.
Right.
So I don't really talk about it. So am I doing my part by not, being more boisterous, about my feelings? I don't know. I look at it a little differently. Maybe now that I'm an adult, and I say adult meaning I'm over 21, not just an adult. I'm an adult now. I think I look at it differently. Can we figure out a way? And I found my way to talk about guns. You found your way to talk about guns, and hopefully, as people talk to us and other people, we can try to keep this going.
Seek common ground.
Yeah.
Do not try to go, and yes, I realize that some of the common ground, there isn't any common ground, because you will talk to people who absolutely don't want to have a discussion about guns and don't want to like or understand them at all, and that's their pushback on things. And you have to just categorize them and understand them, but do not shy away from the conversation, but don't shove it down their throat. Don't take the hard line of you have to listen to me because we have a right and you need to know the right. That's on them. The bump stock thing was a big issue for a lot of people, and they took a real hard line on it. I would have rather seen people say, the bump stock, for the most part, having seen them, used them, and done them, wasn't the safest item on earth.
And it wasn't the best for your handgun.
It wasn't the best for the
rifle.
thing.
Yeah.
I would have rather seen people say, you know what, this just proves that full auto shouldn't be illegal in the first place.
Yes.
And shouldn't be as regulated, because it's not that big a deal. And full auto isn't an effective way to go out and shoot a whole bunch of people. It's cover fire. Talk to the professionals that use it in the field, and they don't use it. They'll use maybe select fire, but they won't use full auto all the time. They use regular single shots because it's more effective for what they want to do. And it all comes down to defending and protecting our way of life, our livelihood, and our ability to be free.
So we hope in the future, now when we talk about this more, we're going to get into different ways, and that's some of the other parts you're going to probably get into.
You got it.
Talk about next. But I don't know if there's anything else I could say about talking to people, but from a business standpoint, I'm kind of throwing it in two different ways.
And honestly, if you look at the body of work that is Get on Target, you'll find that it's always been respectful. It's just been talking about the functionality of the weapon, nothing bad about them, just the straight up functionality, how they work, what they're used for, and what they're utilized for. And it's straight, simple kind of talk about it. That's all we're asking everyone to do. If you have comments, please comment. Thanks. We've been a lot of comments about the Bursa lately. It's kind of funny, 4 or 5 like in a row.
Really?
But
Cool.
Thank you for those comments. But please weigh in on this, and don't feel like it'd be a bad thing to take the other side of it, because we want some people to get the other side of it, so we can sort of start to soften and get people to understand. And I don't mean soften, resolve, and I do not mean change the defending of the Second Amendment. Because even when I had people say to me, were you okay with the outlaw of the bump stocks? I said, no, I'm not, because honestly, it's not something a government should be involved in, and any infringement is an infringement. Said it's stupid to hardline it so much, but you can say no, it's wrong. Okay, they move forward. We need to push back, okay? But we've got to push back strategically, calmly, and don't look like maniacs when we're doing it.
And how we talk to people is not helping. Our cause is to get more people respecting, for whatever reason, hunting or whatever they want to do with their firearms, protecting their family. Like I said, with the Second Amendment, wasn't about hunting.
No.
So the more people we get that are in the middle, elections are won by the middle. It's not won by the far left or the far right. Both of them seem to be way off to the left and off to the right.
Crazy.
It's won by the inside. So the more we can be rational and get people to understand how these things can protect them. I see this, and we can talk in the future about the people we run into and some of the stories behind this.
We'll talk about more of the stories in the next episode.
Going, and I think they'll find out. That's what we want to do anyway.
Very cool. Hey, I'm Birdman.
And I'm Bruce, and be safe.
Hey, thanks everybody for subscribing.
Thank you very much for subscribing.
We appreciate it.
And more info on it?
Man, thanks for your comments as well.
Thank you.